just joining us, I've been taking you with me through the journey of my pregnancy every 4-ish weeks. This time it's looking more like 5. This is my second pregnancy. It's an unexpected pregnancy, although a very welcome one. And this baby will be my second daughter. So let's dive in. What happened since I last chatted with you? Last time I talked to you, we had found out the gender. It was very exciting. This time, it's been a little bit more of just like really getting hit hard by the 3rd trimester. I did my gestational diabetes test. If you, like me, have PCOS, you know there tends to be a little bit more anxiety tied to that. With my last pregnancy, I just went straight ahead and did the 2 weeks of blood sugar monitoring because I was like, I might have insulin resistance. I don't know that the GD test would be an accurate depiction of how I'm caring for my body and where my blood sugar is at. So I tested it myself. I think it was 4 times a day for 2 weeks. And this time around with work and my daughter, I was like, how in the heck am I going to have the time and mental energy for that? So I decided to do the fresh test, and I highly recommend if you have a doctor who's open to alternative options besides the glucola drink, ask what your options are. I know my midwife allows us to do drink Kirkland grape juice. Some midwives allow you to do jelly beans. And my midwife also approved the fresh test. I had so much anxiety about it, I'm not gonna lie, because I was like, regardless of whether the ingredients are natural or not, it's still the same amount of sugar, and I just never eat that much sugar in one sitting. So it just felt like completely out of my control. I had no idea what I was gonna find. And I ended up having a really positive result. Very relieved, glad that that is in the past. We're done with that. That was at around 28 weeks, I believe. Today I am at 32 weeks, so let's jump in and talk about what is going on with this pregnancy. Any new symptoms for me? Man, I just, I think everybody experiences this to some degree, but my body produces a lot of relaxin, and I think that might just be why I'm hit really hard by these aches and pains. I know everybody does experience them to some degree, but talking to other moms, I feel like either I'm a total wimp or there's just a different thing going on here. So my SPD and my sciatic pain are they're just not quitting. They're pretty much nonstop right now. It's been a journey to navigate those. I'm rarely finding relief. I find that laying down even in bed doesn't provide as much relief as it used to, because then your hips hurt because your bed hurts you. We've talked about this before, but how the heck does your bed hurt you? It's your bed, but it feels like you're laying on a bed of cement. Those things have been ever present, but what I'm finding trickier is now that my belly is much bigger. My sweet daughter, she's not even 18 months old, and she just wants to be held. She is so used to being carried and held. So I find myself a lot of times just leading her by the hand, here, let's go over to the couch, let's go over to my exercise ball, and I can hold you there. But when we're trying to get out the door, I have to carry my daughter. When I'm putting her in her car seat, I have to pick her up. And a lot of times, when it's maybe a tough time of day for her, maybe she's melting down for one reason or another, she'll just stand there and hold her arms up to me. And I'm like, I have to pick you up. I have to hold you right now. It really doesn't feel like I have a choice. So anyway, all that to say, she's a normal sized child, but it just feels like holding her with this bump, it feels like so much weight and pressure is being put on my pelvic floor and just being put on my body in general. And I just find myself more and more physically exhausted at the end of every day. I've never really been of the mindset of get this pregnancy over. I just feel like that sets you up for failure. It sets you up to be miserable for a solid month plus. And that's not where I feel mentally, because in most ways, I actually really need this time. So I need the time with my daughter. I need the time to wrap up loose ends with work. My husband and I need time to get the house ready. It's just the feeling of I need this to be over. I need to have my physical capabilities back. And maybe that's what it's rooted in for everybody else as well. But the waiting for the baby, I'm fine with. I'm excited to meet her whenever she gets here, but the waiting for myself to feel slightly better again, I'm growing weary. Cravings, we're not even gonna talk about this much because as I said in the last video, I feel like cravings kind of fall by the wayside when you're at this point in your pregnancy. However, I am back in my cereal era. It took me a while to get here this time. My first pregnancy, I was like, give me cereal all day, every day. This time it took me until like well into my third trimester to even like buy a box of cereal. So I'm finally there. I'm not like cramming boxes of cereal at a time. It's like kind of my nightly treat, or like every other night I'll just enjoy myself like a bowl of cereal. And yeah, it really hits the spot. And then the other random thing, I was texting my sister who just had a baby as well. And I was like, you know what sounds amazing right now are those brownies mom used to make. She hasn't made them in at least a decade. And my mom showed up at our house to drop off birthday treats for my husband. And she had made the brownies. I was floored. I haven't seen these brownies in at least 10 years. I'm not kidding. And when I saw them, I was like, this is a dream come true. I just was telling my sister that I wanted to eat these brownies, and now they're here in front of me. And I had to exercise so much restraint because I was like, these are technically for my husband for his birthday. So like, I can't just like eat 8 brownies in one sitting. I have to save some for him. So it was just really funny. But that was like one of those very specific like thoughts in my brain. And I was like, well, that will never happen. Why would I be given one of those brownies? Lo and behold, there they were. Best moment ever. How am I coping? How am I feeling at this point in the pregnancy? I am starting to acknowledge and realize that I have some anxieties that I might need to process before having this baby, one of which is related to breastfeeding. So I had a very difficult journey. I won't go into it super detailed, but I was triple feeding, if you know what that is. I was triple feeding for 4 months. It's recommended that you only do it for 2 weeks. I did it for 4 months. So that tells you kind of where we're at. I saw multiple different lactation specialists. I tried 800 tinctures and pills and supplements. It was a really like tough road for my daughter and I stopped breastfeeding her at 4 months. So I decided to really like be proactive this time and meet with a prenatal lactation consultant, as well as go ahead and book my other lactation consultant who I already know, who helped me the first time around. And during this prenatal consult, I just felt like all of these like fears were starting to rise up. And I don't want to say trauma, that's such like an overused word, but just these maybe like triggers of what I went through the first time, starting with the very first moment and not letting up until the end. So I think like processing those, or the lack of processing those maybe, is starting to backfire a little bit. So what's unfortunate is I know I'm not gonna really have the answer until I meet this new baby and see how my body does and see how it goes for us. But in the meantime, my efforts to be prepared and be proactive, I think, are in a way actually just bringing me more anxiety about it. So, you know, I know that fed is best. I believe that, etc. It was just something that once I tried, I realized I really wanted to make it work, and it was fraught with a lot of difficulties. Every breastfeeding journey can be different from baby to baby. There's just so many factors related to my physiology, my hormonal imbalances, things like that, that I'm trying to hold it all super loosely again, while also having goals for us and believing for the best. Another thing that I maybe need to prepare myself for emotionally and mentally is just that I really believe in this time of rest after having a baby. I believe that postpartum period is sacred. And, you know, a lot of other cultures, they prioritize 40 plus days of actually intentionally resting. And if you didn't know that, I encourage you to look into that. But the very minimal, there's like a little like easy thing to remember, and it's like 5 days in bed, 5 days around the bed, 5 days out of bed, or something like that. Basically just saying, like, if you can't give yourself 40 days, most people can't. Give yourself 2 weeks to really at least be hyper aware of the fact that you are healing from a very intense experience physically, emotionally, you have a wound the size of a dinner plate inside your body that is trying to heal. You very likely have tearing that's trying to heal, and you're getting to know this new baby, and you're likely trying to breastfeed this baby. So many things going on. You should give yourself a lot of intentional rest and recovery time rather than feeling pulled to get back to whatever it is that you need to get back to. And the way that I'm starting to realize that this is going to be tricky is of course, my daughter. Like, I just don't want her to be feeling neglected or confused, and I can't control that because she's very young and she very well may feel those things, and all I can do is do my best to communicate with her the best I know how. But then the other factor is my husband, and just I think like he co-parents so well. He's like very willing to share the load with me and do everything that I can do, he's willing to do. But the thought of us being split into, the first time he was just there to help me with everything with the baby, and now it's like, yes, he will be there to help me, but he'll also need to take care of our daughter, and he'll also need to take care of himself. Like, no, he didn't go through what I went through, but he is going to be sleep deprived, and he is going to be getting to know this new baby, and he's going to be adjusting. And so like wanting to protect him and his journey, not because he needs me to protect him, but because I love him and care about him, and I don't want to spread him too thin in an effort to protect myself. That's where I'm struggling a little bit, is like really anticipating, how do I fight for and advocate for my needs and my need to really take it easy, while also believing that he deserves some semblance of care for himself as well, because he's going through a transition and he's taking care of our daughter on top of that. The final piece of the puzzle is that in terms of wrapping up work, which if you didn't know, I'm a postpartum personal chef in Nashville, and I have a business where we take care of new moms and we cook for them in the first 6 weeks after they have their baby. And I have 3 chefs underneath me who are also working the business, who are also cooking for new moms in addition to what I do. The business itself is actually logistically become very complex because we have clients and their due dates and their different packages that they've chosen, and then we have chefs and their calendars. Everything has to find its way together to work on the same calendar, and then you have client submission requests coming in asking about care down the road. And so those, like, can't really step away from any of that. And then I also build the menus for all of my chefs. So knowing that all of that has to keep going on after I've had this baby, I actually made a goal for myself to make a hire for the business that would be logistics focused and operations centric. And so I finally finished my interviews, and I'm like, okay, we have just a little bit longer. We're gonna make this hire with giving us enough time to like feel like this person they feel equipped before I go on maternity leave. And that is the thing that's kind of weighing on my mind. That's where I'm like kind of processing, what the heck am I gonna do? Is I need to choose somebody because we have so many amazing candidates. And I also need to then onboard them and spend time investing in them and pouring into them and making sure they feel really confident and empowered before I go have a maternity leave. All right, let's do the fun stuff, which is, what did I acquire in the past 4 to 5 months that has to do with this pregnancy or this new baby? One is I finally chose a double stroller. I don't know if I chose it. I think it chose me, but I was having a really hard time wrestling with what stroller do you choose? How does it best suit your family and your needs and the ages of your children and so on and so forth. And I have this lovely friend who knows that I really do try to be mindful and sustainable in everything that I do. And she is very pro loaning and borrowing. And so she was like, why don't you come check out my Mockingbird double stroller? She said, I'm not currently using it. We won't need it for at least a year. So why don't you give it a go, see what you think? And they ended up blessing me with the loaning of this Mockingbird stroller, as well as the infant car seat that they had that they put with it, which is the Nuna Pippa. I was very, very thankful. That has like kind of been a game changer because I've just been using it as the solo stroller for now. to get familiar with it and get used to it. And then when the next baby comes, then we'll like kind of get more familiar with it as a double stroller. But it's a great stroller, it works, it's cute, you know, like everything that you need out of a stroller, you really have. And I think like to be able to put that out of my mind is very, very helpful, and I'm encouraged. And then the other thing that I acquired, I guess you could say, is I went ahead and booked my placenta services. So I'm doing placenta encapsulation this time. I did not do it the first time. I actually didn't even get to see my placenta the first time, which I now am so bummed about. I really wish I had thought to ask to see it. But this time we have the placenta services booked. We have the gal, she's gonna be on call starting at week 37. And we text her. Once the placenta is delivered, it has to be put over ice. They come to the hospital, they pick it up, they encapsulate it, and then they deliver it to your house. So I'm very thrilled about that. I think that'll be hopefully very beneficial. There are numerous benefits if you want to look into that for yourself. And I'm hopeful that maybe it'll help with anything, whether it's postpartum anxiety, baby blues, maybe even milk production. Also hired them to make a placenta tincture, and that lasts for decades, literally. Like I don't even take it yet, but you can take it during menopause, which is just absolutely mind-blowing. And yeah, I'm super excited about having that. Let's hope that I can keep track of it for the next however long until I go through that season of my life. So that's really it for weeks 27, 28 to 32. I'm guessing we'll hit 1, maybe 2 more of these videos before the baby arrives, which feels insane. I can't believe it got here so quickly, but that is just how time works. It just progresses. I'm having such a lovely time just chronicling this journey for myself, keeping it for my memories and getting it to share it with anybody else who may be on the same journey as me or a similar journey. That's all for now. Let's go ahead and do the bump shot, and then I'll see you next time. This baby belly feels large and in charge. Like, I feel like we're just at that point in pregnancy where it just grows so much faster than it was before. There she is. Whew. Yeah. I keep talking to people who are like, oh yeah, you really popped, or you finally look pregnant. Wow. And I'm like, I know. I feel it. I know. It's fine.